Good morning. So yesterday I was at Prairie Woods and they had a craft festival, and I saw a little sign that said, "Preach the Bible at all times, and if necessary, use words." And that was by Francis of Assisi, whom I love. So I sat there and I thought, oh, words aren't necessary today, so we're just going to do silence. I wish. What we're going to talk about today is kind of a somewhat gloomy subject. I thought it was interesting that the weather is cooperating. And it's a gloomy subject, but it's a necessary discussion in that we're going to talk about our current phenomenon in our culture of narcissism, where it came from, and maybe why we're there. Okay, and what we can do about it is my favorite part, right? There are a lot of things we can do about it. If we go, I'm going to start with the story of Narcissus, and then we're going to go back in time to the origin of where that really started. And it started back with Lucifer, and then from Lucifer it went into Greek mythology with Narcissus. And what is mythology but a story of us, right? So we're still living out these stories. We're living these myths every day, and we're living them as a singular unit, but we're also living them as a community. So I'm going to start with the myth of Narcissus. He was a very, very handsome young man. And many, many humans and nymphs, and there was something else that gods in his culture fell in love with him. And he disdained everybody who fell in love with him. Get away from me, get away from me. And there's two different versions of the story, but one is that a gentleman had fallen in love with him, and he disdained him, and the I don't know if it was a god, but he impaled himself on his sword. But before he did, he prayed to the god Nemesis to please do something about this, because Narcissus is really hurting hearts. And Nemesis is the god of revenge, and so Nemesis put a curse on Narcissus and said. The story goes that he was hunting and he lost his group, and he came upon a pond, and he looked in the pond and fell in love with the person that was reflected back. He didn't understand that it was himself. He was under a spell, and he kept pining for this person. When he put his lips to the water, he would meet with the lips of the other person, but there was really nothing there. And when he would talk, he would see that person talking back, but he could hear nothing from that person. In the meantime, there's a nymph called Echo. Echo is, she's a nymph that comes from the mountains. And she saw Narcissus and fell in love with him. However, she was already cursed because Zeus liked to play with other nymphs and made his wife very, very jealous. And so he asked Echo, "Will you please, my wife," Hera was coming after Zeus to find out what exactly is going on here. And he asked Echo to intervene and talk with Hera, because that was her gift, talking. So she talked and talked and talked, and Hera found out that Echo was diverting the attention of Hera, and Hera got very angry and then put a spell on Echo, that Echo can no longer speak for herself. She can only speak the last thing that she heard from somebody else. So going back into before Narcissus was looking in the pond, when he was hunting, he heard something following him. And he was startled, and he said, "Is anyone there?" And he didn't hear anything. And he said, "Come here." And Echo was delighted because she could finally say something of meaning. "Come here." So she repeated back, "Come here." So then at that point, he followed the sound, and she jubilantly jumped out to give him a kiss, and he disdained her. And she was heartbroken. And he said, "Hands off, may I die before you enjoy my body." And that was the thing that he said to most of them. Humiliated and rejected, Echo fled in shame. And her love of Narcissus never ended, and she went into a cave and ended up never coming out of that cave. She just died there out of a broken heart. Narcissus, on the other hand, never left the pond. He died at the side of the pond. And he died out of unrequited love, which is the very thing he was giving everybody else. So that's why he was cursed, to feel what it feels like to be on the other side of that. And it took both of their lives. So we're going to go back now to where did that originate? In Isaiah. This is the first time that maybe not the first time, but it's a piece in the Bible when they're first talking about Lucifer. It's Isaiah 14:12-14. "How have you fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn? You have been cast down to earth. You were once laid low of the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." So there he is, wanting to be like the Most High, wanting to be, he's got that same narcissist feeling of, I'm more important. I want to be more important. I want to be the special one. In Judaism, Satan is a verb, actually. And it generally refers to a challenge or a temptation rather than a literal being. And when I looked up what's the name Lucifer actually mean, it was very interesting to me. Lucifer means, it's a Latin word for dawn. And they also call Lucifer the morning star. So when I was doing the research, it was actually saying that the translation in here from the Hebrew Bible to the First King James Version, which was the year 1611, they actually used Lucifer, but now the scholars are saying they don't think that's accurate. They think that it's actually what I just read about when they call how you've fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. Son of the dawn is actually Aurora in mythology. Aurora is the dawn. So they said that the name Lucifer, actually, he's the son of Aurora. So I think, morning star, son of the dawn. And then it occurred to me, I wonder if that's where the phrase darkest before the dawn comes. That there's Lucifer, darkest before the dawn. So how y'all doing? Is it a really happy subject so far? In the Hindu class, there's the class that are the priests, the teachers, and the protectors of sacred learning. Across the generations, they've explained that at one time, demons and gods spoke both truth and untruth. But later, demons relinquished truth, and the gods relinquished untruth. So it's interesting because we're becoming such a specialized world, right? That back in the day, they were all the whole spectrum. And then they specialized. You know, the gods are going to be only good, and the demons are going to be only bad. But they also see in the Hindu religion, they also see that both kinds of spirits are regarded as different aspects of one supreme God. And also, when I thought about that, I thought, you know, very often where there's the darkness, there is the light. I thought of Mother Teresa in Calcutta, you know, how difficult it was in the streets of Calcutta, and there was this shining light right in the midst of all of that. And I thought about Gandhi, you know, when the East Indians were fighting the British rule, there was Gandhi, that light in the middle of it. I thought of Martin Luther King, you know, in the midst of all of our suppression and oppression of one skin color, and here's Martin Luther King, the shining light in the midst of all of that. So it also, the division also started back in Genesis chapter 2, verse 17. God is talking to Adam at this point. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For if you eat of it, you shall surely die. So I thought, what does that really mean? Because clearly they ate of it and they didn't die. So what does that mean? First of all, there's the tree of life, right? The tree of life they could eat of. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? So there's two trees in the garden. And first I thought, you know, that's a little odd. Would you put a child in its playroom and put a toy in there that says, you can play with all the toys in the room, just don't play with that toy? Don't we usually, as adults, remove that toy from the room, right? So I started thinking, what is this about? Why would God do that to his only children at that point, by the way, right? He has two children, Adam and Eve. So I thought, why would that happen? And then I realized he's allowing them to experience a fullness that's the same fullness, like I was talking about the Hindu religion, that it's all under the umbrella of God, right? The demons and the, what did I say, demons and gods? It's all under the umbrella of God. So here's two trees. The two trees, guess what, were created by who? God, right? The tree of knowledge and the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. They were both of God. So God was saying essentially, I don't want you to touch that tree. But also what happens when you tell somebody no? I know what I do. I go right to that thing. I want to know why. Why are you telling me no, right? So in the experience of that, then we get to experience, my understanding, the head and the heart. They're two different things. Here's our knowledge. Here's our tree of life, right? Which is kind of interesting because if you look at the bronchial tubes, they look like tree branches. And so that tree, we have a tree within us. I don't know, that just came. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm a tree girl. So the head contains the good and the evil. The head contains the thoughts of evil, the thoughts of good. By the way, I looked up evil because that's another thing that I've noticed we've done in our culture is we've made evil like really sinister, you know. So I thought, well, what is evil? When I looked it up, do you know what it is? Anything opposite of love. That could be a negative thought. That could be an angry emotion. That could be a cold or the flu. That's evil, you guys. It's like, why have we so demonized evil and made it this horrible, frightening thing, which it is on one end of its spectrum. It is. It will take your life, right? So, but that's the extreme of the spectrum. Then you go all the way over to this extreme, and you have only light and life, okay? But we're human, so in our human sense, we live amongst the whole spectrum at any given time, right? So the head is good and evil, and the tree of life lives here. The tree of knowledge lives here. And the interesting thing is, I did a lot of research for this talk. I don't know why. I'm a nerd, so I love it. Gave me a reason to nerd out. But there's a place called Heart Math online, and they are an amazing group of scientists. And one of the things that they taught me when I was researching is that the world can be measured two ways, magnetically and electrically. And that the heart sends out electrical and magnetic impulses, and so does the thinking, the mind. And the impulses of the heart magnetically are 5,000 times stronger than those of the head, than thoughts. Electrically, 100,000 times stronger in the heart than the head. So that's what I think God meant when he said, if you eat of the tree of knowledge, you will die. It's not a true death, but my goodness, it sure is a diminishment of energy, right, coming from here. And so a lot of what we were taught, what's schooling, but it's from here up, from here up, from here up, from here up. And then we go through life and we learn labels and we learn what's right and we learn what's wrong. And what's wrong, we want to kill it, trash it, burn it, throw it away, step on it, squish it out, because we only want life, right? But what we're missing out of that is that you can't get that when you're from here up, because up here is the dualistic life. Up here is the good and the evil. Down here, this is the tree of life. This is only life. This is only good. So it's really quite simple what God was saying to them. You have a choice to live wherever you want to live, but you'll be diminished if you live up here. You'll be diminished. You'll be in a state of not a lot of life flowing through, because it's all about labels. It's all about what we learned, right? It's about what our history tells us who we are and how we were formed. Now we're coming into today's narcissist personality, okay? That what that really is, the very base of that is a deep wounding. A deep wounding. How is a narcissist created? Research says that it's, the nature-nurture fight. They say that narcissism is mostly nurture, not a lot of nature. The temperament has something to do with it, yes, but it's mostly the way the child was treated when he or she was growing up. That it has to do with a very critical, usually, parent figure. That doesn't mean it has to be the parent, but whoever the parenting figure was. A lot of criticism. There's a lot of conditional love there. You need to be this way or you're not okay. And very little mirroring of goodness, love, creativity. And love is very, it's given in measure, or it comes and it goes. I love you, no I don't. I love you, no I don't. That creates a very, very unstable human being. And that creates a very, very emptiness, a very, very large hole in a person, filled with emptiness. And they're constantly looking to fill it. So, could I get 4 volunteers to come play with me? Oh, come on. Come on, you guys. I have faith in you. we're going to play with beads. Thank you. Oh, you get 4. Okay, so if you would take 4 beads. Laura, do you want to come join the party? Okay, now one of you gets to be the wounded one. Who wants to be the wounded one? Okay. All right. So here's our wounded one. This wounded one, what they do is they want everybody's beads, right? And then once they get everybody's beads, they want to flaunt them. Look what I have. Look who I am. Why? Because I need to be special. Because I feel empty if I'm not. Okay? So go ahead and just steal, beg, borrow, manipulate, however you need. You just, yes. So it comes. So it comes through. That's exactly how it starts. That's exactly how it starts. It starts with charm. It starts with manipulation. It starts with love bombing you. Love, love, love. Find out what you like and just bomb it on them. Bomb, 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 bomb. And while they're doing it, they're going to start taking your energy. They're going to start taking everything you have to give them, right? And then, look here. Look what we have. Empty, empty, empty. Supposedly filled, but truly still empty. Okay? So look what this does to our culture. Look what this does. This one now has already gleaned what she can. She'll move on to the next set of 3. Okay? And here they stand. Now, do you 3 feel especially happy right now? Exactly. Right. And there's that sense of deflation now, right? And that sense of disregard. Like, how could she do that? And by the way, she has no intention to ever give these back. She'll probably disappear, which even makes your power feel less because now you can't get your power back, right? This is power. This is their gifts that they gave, but they gave not out of choice. They gave out of an open heart, and yes, you can have it, thinking she operates on the same level as they operate on. That's not true with this narcissistic sort of personality. They're not on this same page because they're empty, okay? Now, does that make her bad? Does that make her on this end of the spectrum of evil? No. According to definition of what evil is, yes. But in the true sense of who she is as a human being, no. She's wounded, she's injured. This is not evil happening in our culture. But what do? These 3 are now angry, so they want to label her, they want to throw anger at her, and they want to separate her, kick her out, right? So they want to separate her, which what does that do? That exasperates her wound. Exacerbates. That one. It does that to her wound, right? So now that makes her need to be even more glorious, even larger, right? So she's going to dig even deeper and create more wounds and create more anger. And then you're going to get together as a group and say, hate, 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 hate on her, right? But what's happening to this group? They're getting wounded. That's what's happening. That's what they're reacting out of, is a wound. Okay, now stay right there. This is all done on the level of the tree of knowledge, right? This is all from our personality state. This is all about expectations of society's rules. This is all about you shouldn't be doing it like that. It needs to go like this. It's about judgment, right? So that's all from the tree of knowledge. Now this is going to represent, if you would be in a circle now, this is going to represent, I'll take your beads. Is that okay? I know. This is spirit. This is living from the tree of life. Okay? And now just keep going until you're all connected. You're connected to everybody. You're all connected. Do you see what I mean? You're connected to these three. You're connected to those three. Keep going with that. And so when you build community, like on this level, you're meeting each other. You're saying, would you like to have? Yes. Would you like to have? Yes. So there's an equality that's happening, right? There's a giving that's happening. You're giving a gift, you're receiving the gift, right? So there's a flow here. Now you're giving the gift, you're receiving the gift. So there's a flow that happens in that state. When you're in that state, that's you living here from your heart. But guess what? We're human. So we're like monkeys swinging from both trees, right? We're going to be in this other tree. We're going to have the tree of knowledge, the good and the evil show up. Okay? Did you get it done? Yay. Okay. Now what happens is we live in both states. So you also get to have your beads. Okay, so you're having your bling, these are your things that you've achieved in life. This is your heart, okay? So now when we go and we switch off and the narcissist shows up in this state, right? Go ahead and take some beads. Because you're still empty. You're still empty. This is what's happening on the unseen level, right? This is the heart happening all the time. We're all joined together all the time. And there's science behind that, and I'll share that with you as soon as I'm done with this. Okay, so this connection is happening all the time. But look, there's still hurt happening, right? There's still being taken from happening. See that? That makes me mad just watching. Okay, so, but you can live on either level. This is choice. Now you can say, whoa, wait a minute. I see the Christ in you, but I'm not happy with what you're doing. Okay? So what happens to a community who's connected like this, and this one is resonating pain, pain. You're all feeling it, right? The web is shaking pain. When the web shakes pain and you're on this level, how do you respond? When you're in the Christed state. Exactly. Help, love, compassion. And when you're on this state, you can still feel the anger, but there's ways to go about it. There's healthy ways to go about it, right? So let's thank our people for doing the fun. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Yes, clear your roles, clear your roles. So when we're running from both in both states, which we are because we're human, at that point there's things we can do. We still hold the loving, right? But we're more in a parent role. When a human being is coming from an injured state, they're requiring of us a bigger state, meaning we're the adult if they're injured. I don't care if this is somebody who cut you off in traffic or if it's a family member, they're calling you to your heart state. Because this can't be healed on a level of society until we can heal it on a personal level with all of our personal interactions. When we can heal this with personal interactions of love and compassion and good boundaries say, hey, that's not okay. Love and compassion, by the way, love isn't always a beautiful thing. Do you think Gandhi was always in a beautiful state, or Martin Luther King? No, they had to set boundaries. They had to say absolutely not, and this is what we're going to do to say no, right? We can join groups. We can join up and say no, right? As a culture, we can get together and like minds say, how do we want to address our political situation right now, right? We have a choice. It's not about reacting. When we're reacting, then we're just angry because they took our beads. And where is that going to put us? We're just in a bead fight fest, right? And that's not helpful. So to get down where the yellow ribbon is and say, what do we really need to do? How do we gather together to make a voice of no? How do we gather together to create boundaries? But there's a step before that, and that's my own personal self, right? I steal beads from myself. I do, by the way I talk to myself, right? And then I get all mad because I stole my beads. And then I get mad about that. Now I don't have any energy, and I'm supposed to do whatever I have to do today, and how am I going to do, blah, 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 blah. And that's all up here. So what do I need to do as a unit? I need to get down into my tree of life. And I need to let that be the leader. And notice the pain, feel the pain, acknowledge the pain, and ask, what do I need to do right now? What do I need to strengthen myself? Maybe I need to go out in nature. Maybe I need to take a walk. Maybe I need to scream. Maybe I need to, I don't know, dance. Whatever it is, what do I need to do so that I can be back into my equilibrium? Truth-telling, that's another really, really positive thing that we are allowing, by the way, our political system and our media and our social media to just go rampant in not truth-telling. But if we change that culture here in ourselves, if I start truth-telling to you the really, really scary things, guess what happens? There's actually communication that can happen. If I'm not telling my truth to you, how do you really know me? How can we ever really know each other? If we can't know each other, then guess where we are? We're in the tree of knowledge. And we're jumping from evil to good, from evil to good, from evil to good, and we're stealing each other's beads, and nothing really is getting accomplished. So in order to really get further down the road than this stuck position we're in as a culture, of this stuckness of the me mind, we've got to be honest, okay? And with a me mind, by the way, that's a real difficult one, creating distance is a good idea. You create distance if the behavior just keeps going and there's no apology behind that. It's just constant bead stealing. You can create distance as another way of taking care of yourself. You can ask yourself questions. What's behind this? What's behind this? What's behind this behavior? Is there something I need to learn? Is there something I need to do? Is there some way I need to grow? Is there something I need to say to that person? Is there something that I need to teach? Is there something that I need to let go of? So take responsibility for yourself and be firm. Be firm with yourself and be firm with other, but never ever shame. Because shame is the thing that's driving the whole issue, is shame. When Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge, guess what the first thing they felt when God showed up? Shame. So shame was introduced right then because they felt, their perception was, we did something wrong, okay? So shame is the thing that drives the separation. That's the thing that drives the separation. So oftentimes we want them to feel shame, thinking if they feel shame, they'll come back to me in a healthy way, right? If you're trying to give shame or you're receiving shame, it's all about the beads. And that's never going to get you into the yellow ribbon, right? Because that's the yellow ribbon, if you noticed, is not on the same wavelength as the beads. They're in two separate locations. So if ever there's shame being thrown one way or another, just know this is a bead state. This is not the ribbon state. So to get into the ribbon over and over and over is how you can find your way through the bead state, right? Through the heart is the way through the mind. What do they say? If you feed somebody food, that's the way to their heart. Through their stomach is the way to their heart, right? Through the heart is the way to the mind. Current scientific studies show that in response to emotions we create between the heart and the brain, changes actually take place in the electric and magnetic fields in the body and in the outer world. So when I think something that's in line with both of these, think of the power that's behind that. Remember how I said this is 5,000 times stronger than this magnetically and 100,000 times stronger than this electrically? So you put these two together and it changes that electric magnetic state. And then what they learned is for a cell to actually change, it takes a change in the electrical and magnetic state, and the cell will change. So that's the outer body. But you do that through emotions. You do that from the yellow ribbon state of yourself, and you can actually make change in your life. Here's something else super cool. I love this one. Inside our body, there's 100 trillion cells. So we are a very large community already. This thing you're looking at is a community of 100 trillion cells. In each cell is 100 trillion atoms. In each atom, there's a varying amount of protons. And in each proton, is the knowledge of the universe. Imagine that. Imagine how much knowledge of the universe we carry around all the time. Do you know how to tap it? Through the heart. You know how to stay here? Through quieting the mind. Quiet, peace, calm. Puts us here. We just naturally drop in. When we naturally drop in here, do you guys ever get hits of information like you're just taking a shower and something's resolved? Or you're at a stop sign, you've been thinking about this issue for a long time, and it just goes boink and it comes into your head? Why? Because you're out of the tit for tat of the bead state. You're not playing that game anymore. Now you're here. And when you're here, this is where the power comes, right? The power comes from the universe, here, out. That's how we make a difference. That's how we make a difference in our world. So when we're watching this political circus that's going to be happening for the next year, one of the things you can really think about is to vote for people who are not playing the bead game. Listen to what they're saying and know that when they're in the bead game, they are so far away from their own power. How can they lead us? But also, by the way, we have to take responsibility for who we already have in power, because they really are representatives of us. That's why they're in power. Okay, so if they're representatives of us, and they're in a narcissistic state, that means we could be fairly empty as a country. We could be experiencing a very empty state, but we already know how to fix that. That's the bead state, right? We go into the ribbon, we go into the love, and that fills that emptiness. That fills that hole. That's why you notice if people start meditating, that they actually start changing. They're more comfortable and they look different. And you say, wow, you really look great. New hair, makeup, what you got going? No, it's meditation. It's the light, right? It's the light. So, the last thing I want to point out is echo is a very important part of the story of Narcissus, because echo is one that doesn't have a voice. Echo is one that says, I can't say anything, I can't really be me. And Narcissist is extra full of self, right? So they balance each other. So when you see a narcissist and they're in a relationship, oftentimes it's with somebody who doesn't feel they have a voice. This one usually rules the relationship, and this one goes along with it and loses self and loses self and loses self. And they both die. Not literally, but they both die in their spirits, right? Because they're just feeding that bead state over and over and over. So the fact that we have these tendencies in our government now, the narcissistic tendencies in our government now, kind of points to that we might have a lot of echo people in our culture right now, right? So that's what we can do about it. We can start speaking. We can start acting from this place rather than judgment, from the state of the tree of life rather than the tree of knowledge. So, that being said, I guess in the songs this morning, there were two thoughts that I had. One that fit so perfectly. Break the patterns and start again was one of the lyrics being sung this morning so beautifully. The other was bright blessed day, dark sacred night. If we had day and day and day and day, we wouldn't have that balance. We wouldn't have what this planet offers is the balance of all the dark and the light under the umbrella of God, right? So there's the bright blessed day, there's the dark sacred night, but below all of that is divine order. Below all of that is divine order. And so in the principles, the main, I brought my iPad. I'll get it. Okay. It's my iPad. I take it to college with me. There's only one presence and one power active in the universe. God the good. Okay? So overall, it's good. When you die, I went through a near-death experience, and when I got to the other side, it's all good. It's like this was just a story. This was just a play being acted out, and nobody really got hurt. Nobody really got offended. Nothing really happened. Not really. What really happens is it's all good. In the end, it's all good. So we can play nasty, we can play fair. However we want to play, in the end, it's all good. Our essence is God. Therefore, we are inherently good. And so the essence, if we remember that our essence is good, then so what if somebody took my beads yesterday? You know, it doesn't affect who I really am. It doesn't affect the true quality of me. We're co-creators with God. We talked about that through our thoughts, create. And number 4, through prayer and meditation, we align our heart and our mind with God. That's what I had spoken of earlier. Through our thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth that we know. And we can live a truth beyond what we know because we're connected in our bodies. We're connected with all of the knowledge of the universe through our protons. And how many do we have? A ton of them. So that's why I was saying when you were all connecting to this, I said we're all connected. We're all connected in that way. We all have the same knowledge in us. So that's it. We're going to wrap up now with Tom, if you'll come up. Tom is going to lead us. Let's do 4. So we're going to do Om. And this is really cool because this is going to give you the experience of how we all are one. When you do this Om, you're going to have this certain tone that comes out of you, and everybody else has their own unique tone. And when you hear, say the Om with as much voice as you can, because you're going to notice there's actual music happening inside of it. So say it with all your voice, but listen also really closely, because you're going to hear the melodies inside of it. So this is like an experience of what it's like inside your cell when it's listening to the universe. Okay? So Tom's going to lead us. Can you turn me off? I mean my microphone.
Okay. Oh.
Did you feel it? Did you hear it? One person? Hey. Or are you all sleeping? Did you hear it? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.